The midday sun blazed over Route 17, casting long, shimmering waves across the quiet stretch of highway. It was supposed to be an ordinary ride for the Iron Windriders, a group of bikers known as much for their loud engines as their soft hearts. But everything changed in a single shocking moment. A small girl, no older than 8, burst out from the dusty roadside bushes, tears streaking down her cheeks, her arms waving desperately as she stumbled. Directly into the path of the roaring motorcycles, the bikers screeched to a halt, boots grinding into gravel, hearts hammering, and then she cried out with a trembling voice that cut straight through the roar of their engines and the heat of the day, "Please, please help, they're beating my mama," and just like that, the world stopped. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and helping those who cannot help themselves, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel Kindness Spark. Your support keeps these life-changing stories alive. The little girl's name was Raina, a quiet child with tangled chestnut hair and eyes wide with fear. She could barely breathe between sobs as the bikers quickly surrounded her, kneeling down to her level, each one trying their best not to frighten her. Their leader, a broad-shouldered man named Marshall Crow, gently took her hand, his gravel-deep voice softening his crew. Men who looked intimidating to anyone who didn't know them stood statue still, their expressions tightening as they processed the child's desperate words. Marshall didn't waste a second. He asked her where her mother was, and when Raina pointed toward a cluster of run-down trailers half hidden behind an old gas station, the bikers exchanged quick, grim looks. Without hesitation, they lifted Raina onto the back of Marshall's bike and headed toward the danger she had come running. From the low-income trailer park sat under the harsh daylight like a forgotten corner of the world, cracked pavement and peeling paint, telling stories no one wanted to hear. Marshall parked his motorcycle gently, keeping Raina close while the others spread out, scanning the area with protective instincts. As they walked, they heard sounds, raised voices, harsh words, muffled crying. From one of the smaller trailers with a dented aluminum door, Raina tugged on Marshall's vest, whispering shakily that her mother, Marta, had been trapped inside for hours with Marta's boyfriend, who had come home angry, shouting, breaking things. Raina had managed to slip out through a window when he wasn't looking. Marshall signaled his crew, and the big men, usually carefree on the open road, moved. Quietly and carefully, they didn't burst in or cause chaos. They knew escalations made things worse. Instead, Marshall knocked, firmly but calmly, announcing who they were, offering help, giving the man inside a chance to step out. Silence followed at first, the tense kind where even the breeze seems to hold still. Then suddenly the door cracked open, revealing Marta's boyfriend looking irritated and confused at the sight of leather-clad bikers on his doorstep. Marshall stepped forward, voice low, confident, firm, without threat. He explained they weren't leaving until they knew Marta was safe. And when the man tried to dismiss them, Marshall's entire crew stood behind him like an unspoken warning. Eventually the man backed away, muttering, and Marta appeared from behind him, shaken, pale, and exhausted. She had no visible injuries, but the emotional toll hung around her like a shadow. Marshall kept his hands respectfully at his sides, giving her space while he spoke gently, telling her that Raina was outside and safe. Marta's reaction broke every heart present, her trembling relief, her rushed steps toward the door. As she whispered her daughter's name when she stepped onto the porch and saw Raina, the mother collapsed to her knees, pulling the little girl into a tight embrace. As daylight spilled warmly over them, the bikers slowly stepped back to give them privacy, though every one of them watched with softened eyes. Once things calmed, Marshall asked Marta if she felt safe staying. Her silence said everything. She had endured months of emotional strain, fear of conflict, fear of leaving, fear of not being able to protect her daughter alone. Marshall nodded. With understanding, he had seen too many people stuck in those quiet, invisible battles, so he made a choice. He told her the riders would help her pack whatever she needed, no pressure, no judgment. Marta hesitated, torn between uncertainty and hope, but when Raina squeezed her hand tightly, the mother nodded. The bikers moved efficiently, respectfully gathering belongings while Marta and Raina waited outside in the sunlight. Marta's boyfriend tried arguing, blaming, stress, promising change, but Marshall stepped between them, steady as a mountain, calmly making it clear that this was Marta's choice, and it would be respected. The man faltered, realizing he was outnumbered not in strength, but in resolve. Eventually he retreated inside, leaving the three of them in peace the next. Hour felt surreal to Marta. She watched strangers, men she had never met, handle her few belongings with careful hands, treating each item as if it mattered. She wasn't used to kindness, especially not from people who looked like they lived on the edge of danger. But that was the thing about kindness. It rarely came from where the world expected it. Once everything was loaded onto the bikes and support van, Marshall asked Marta where she wanted to go. She had no answer. With nowhere to turn and no family nearby, she felt lost. Drifting, Marshall made another decision. He invited them both to the Iron Windriders Community Hub, a converted warehouse they used as both a workshop and a safe place for anyone needing shelter. Marta hesitated, but Raina looked up at the bikers with a trust she hadn't even shown most adults in her life. The choice became clearer: the ride to the Riders Hub was surprisingly peaceful. The sun overhead softened into gentle afternoon light, the breeze cool against Marta's face as she held Raina close. She watched the line of motorcycles ahead of them, these larger-than-life protectors, forming a shield around her and her daughter. With each mile, something inside her loosened. A fear she had clung to for too long began to melt away. When they arrived, Marta was stunned. She expected chaos, mess, maybe loud music and recklessness. Instead, the hub felt alive in a warm, welcoming way. There were